Welcome back, everybody. You know, I've done a couple shorts about slinging unguided bombs across international borders. My goal there was to see how far I could chuck a bomb to help troops on the ground without actually violating the no-fly zone. If you've missed those, I'll link them below for background. One of the most common comments on those videos was whether you could actually hit anything accurately if you're not using laser-guided munitions. Well, today we're slinging unguided bombs to see if we can hit a target. See, my whole goal with chucking unguided bombs was to have plausible deniability, so I didn't want to use missiles or guided bombs. It's easy to envision. You see, sir, a bomb accidentally escaped my plane, but I didn't intend to violate the no-fly zone. I simply panicked as I neared the no-fly zone, and I accidentally released my bombs whilst trying to stay outside the zone. It's all very explainable, and it was just a Bob Ross happy accident that I managed to chuck a bomb 3 miles into enemy territory and maybe helped the troops on the ground a little bit. Totally unintentional. By the way, if you enjoy this, be sure to like, subscribe, and consider becoming a channel member by clicking the join button. Members get special badges and emojis and comments and more. Check that out if you're curious. Okay, so we ended up with a fair few commenters remarking that it would be impossible to hit anything, and even more people chiming in on the boundaries of international territorial waters. I only used the coast to clearly reflect what I was doing, gang. Everybody settle down and just accept that for my purposes here, the no-fly zone starts at the beach. It makes it easier to see what I'm doing and easier to understand if I actually succeeded. So we'll still be using that for our purposes here today. Now, as for whether we can hit something, we're using 3 unguided 500-pound bombs, and we're trying to hit a truck that's harassing some friendlies on the ground. We've been in radio contact with the friendlies and an AWACS in the area, so we have an idea of our bearing to the target, as well as its approximate location on the ground. I'm not using labels or anything like that here, so we'll be looking for distinct geography. If you've seen those other videos, then you know that a 500-pound bomb slung at a 45-degree angle from 10,000 feet at 300 knots from an A-10 flew a total of 2.7 nautical miles. You also know that the same size of bomb chucked from the same altitude and attitude at 733 knots from an F-18 flew 6.4 nautical miles. Well, today we've got a target truck that's about 4.4 nautical miles from the coast. That's about 5 miles as you would drive in your car and about 8.15 kilometers. So, with all else being the same, I'll shoot to release the bombs from 10,000 feet at a 45-degree nose-high attitude at 504 knots. I'll explain how I got to that in a minute for anyone who wants to try and work it out themselves.
Okay, bomb quantity set. Alright, now the target is a little truck, and I know it's up here by the river. Let's see. Should be between some trees. Oh, whoa, there it is. Alright, here we go. Going back, and 45. We're just going to keep pulling back here so the plane is flying away from the no-fly zone. Alright, let's see what these bombs can do. It's about 4.5 miles away. Oof. Okay, I didn't have it set up right. Okay, so the bombs hit a little bit right of target from my perspective as the bomb dropper. And they didn't all drop at the same time, so I obviously didn't set it up right. Let's try that again. Okay, we've got quantity 3. There we go. Okay. Got it set up right now this time. Perfect. Okay. Now the Jeep, thanks to troops on the ground in the AWACS, I know the Jeep is out along the river, right where that gap is in the trees. Okay. Those over here just a little bit, get some speed built up. We want to be climbing into 504 knots at 10,000 feet. Getting close to the coastline, here we go, start pulling back. Got to keep the wings level, otherwise the bombs will go errant. 40, 45. Good, all right. All 3 bombs released at the same time there. That's at least looking better. Oh, a little bit short. A little bit short. Okay. We're not doing too bad. Trying again. Okay, we're on target. I'm gonna try and go with a little bit more speed. That last one was good. It was just a little bit short. Make sure I stay lined up right with those trees. Cut the power here a little fast. Start climbing. And bombs out. Continue nosing over. I think we were good on the coast again there. All 3 bombs out, excellent. Where are they gonna hit? Troops need me. Not looking too bad. Oh man. We were off maybe between 100 and 500 feet, something like that.
Okay, explanation time. I'll just assume that everyone's familiar with the equation for the trajectory of a bomb chucked from a given altitude, right? Excellent. Well, the trick here is just to do all that math in your head and then you're golden. Moving on. Okay, alright, I'm just kidding. Contrary to what they'll tell you, most pilots aren't rocket scientists. But good pilots are pretty okay at identifying trends and relationships. I've talked about the idea of interpolation on the channel before. In the field of math, interpolation relates to being able to insert an intermediate value into a series by estimating it from surrounding known values. There are a couple ways I could calculate this using the idea of interpolation. As an initial matter, I know through testing that this type of bomb launched at 10,000 feet will go 2.7 nautical miles if I'm traveling at 300 knots and 6.4 nautical miles if I'm going 733 knots. I also know that the target I want to hit is 4.4 nautical miles from me, so one way to do it is to set up a quick equation, where x is the speed that I will need to be at for the bomb to fly 4.4 nautical miles. Cross multiply and divide and voila! 504 knots is what I need for the bomb to go 4.4 nautical miles. That's not easy math, but it's certainly easier than the actual equation for all this. But there's an even easier way to calculate the approximate velocity needed for the bomb to go that distance. Through the testing, we already have these bits of data. Then we can determine that the difference between the bomb drops is 3.7 nautical miles and 433 knots. If we divide that out, we know that on average we get an extra 1 nautical mile of additional bomb travel distance for each additional 117 knots of airspeed. So we can divide that down a little further to approximate that between 300 and 733 knots we get approximately an additional 1/10 of a nautical mile of bomb travel distance for each additional 11.7 knots of airspeed. So if we wanted the bomb to go 4.4 miles instead of 2.7, that would be an extra 1.7 miles. So multiply 1.7 additional miles times 11.7 knots of additional airspeed per 1/10 of a mile, and we know we need an extra 199 knots of airspeed for the bomb to travel that extra 1.7 nautical miles. If we use that calculation, 499 knots is my target airspeed. Since we're not using a targeting computer and the human reflexes are going to be a bit limited pulling the types of G's we're talking about here, the difference between 499 knots and 504 knots for these purposes is practically negligible. We would have the weapon profile memorized or on a cheat sheet somewhere in the event of a targeting computer failure, and we'd use the 11.7 knots for each additional extra 1/10 of a mile calculation. You don't memorize the exact trajectory equation. You learn a simpler equation that gives clear outcomes. I know that from 10,000 feet I get an additional 0.1 nautical miles of distance for every 12 knots of airspeed if I drop at a 45-degree angle at 10,000 feet. Similarly, with a little testing or some data from others, you'd be able to come up with other reasonably simple relationships for altitude. How does that distance change if I drop at 500 knots from only 5,000 feet? Once again, you'd be able to work out a reasonably simple relationship. The point is, it's easy numbers, it's pretty basic math, and it's something you can do in your head with a little practice. Also, a quick point for any nitpickers out there. I repeatedly refer to the attitude of the aircraft here. But you can see in the videos that the nose is much higher than 45 degrees when we see the bombs dropped from outside. I'm not going to get into the distinction between attitude, angle of attack, and the trajectory of the plane through the air. In my calculations, I've used the trajectory as indicated by the velocity vector bug on the HUD as my measurement for the 45 degrees. So, my use of attitude in these descriptions is a little incorrect, but this isn't a darn flying lesson. Now, I should also point out that this is not a physics or math class, and there are more accurate ways to calculate this stuff. So any internet physicists who happen to see this, save yourself the comment. It's also important to note that what I described is how I would do it, and I'd wager a number of other pilots would do it that way if they sat down and thought about it and knew they would need to calculate it in real time. Obviously, things like altitude, wind, friction, and drag are going to play a part here, and that's why I'm using 3 unguided bombs. I'm going for a bit more of the shotgun approach. Finally, it's also worth mentioning that the reliance on targeting computers has made some of this stuff obsolete. But being able to do quick calculations like that was certainly important back in Ruge's day.
Okay, we got the bombs set up right. Get on target here, just a little bit of adjustment. Can't actually see the truck, but we know where it is. 504 knots. See right now, this is a show of force. We're hauling towards the no-fly zone. We're gonna break off here, and the bombs accidentally get released. Whoops. This looks good. 20 degrees, 30. Bombs away. I'll just keep that going back over, level out, watch the bombs. Nice 3-bomb spread there. Still on their way up at this point. Starting their descent. Definitely using 3 bombs was the way to go here for this. Looking good. I don't know, that might be short. That might be short. No! No way! Oh my gosh, really? Really? That is awesome! Oh wow. I mean, I figured I'd get it eventually. Let's check out that replay. Keep in mind, the enemy truck is right here. Plus, the whole goal of this, the plane never actually crossed into the no-fly zone. Bombs just doing their thing here. That sound is eerie. So they were all pretty close, but it looks like only one of them actually got the hit. Okay, let's see what that impact looked like from the airplane. I don't even know. I don't even know what you're talking about, sir. We weren't doing anything. Nothing strange happening at all.
You know, I gotta be honest with you, I did not expect to hit it that quickly. Turns out that the quick math was pretty doable. Yep, all that was calculated for a target 4.4 miles away, and we nailed it. Oh, wait a second. The bomb flew 5.3 nautical miles. Well, you know what? I'll take it. If you enjoyed this, be sure to like, subscribe, consider joining the channel, and be sure to check out some of my other videos for more airplane shenanigans. I'm completely confident this is not the end of our loft bombing shenanigans. Stay tuned! Thanks for watching!